She went from international supermodel to reality TV star to a woman who couldn't read, write, or watch television. She lost her marriage while fighting for her life. Her castmates accused her of faking it all, and through it all, she had to watch two of her children battle the same invisible disease. This is Yolanda Hadid's heartbreaking story. Jolanda Vandenhik was born on January 11, 1964, in Pop, a small town in South Holland, Netherlands. She grew up in what appeared to be a normal Christian family, with her mother, Ans Vandenherik, and her brother Leo. But when Yolanda was just 7 years old, her entire world shattered. Her father died in a car accident, leaving her mother to raise two young children alone. The loss of a parent at such a young age leaves scars that never fully heal. Yolanda has rarely spoken publicly about her father's death or how it affected her, but that kind of childhood trauma shapes everything that comes after. Losing a parent suddenly and violently teaches a child that safety is an illusion, that the people you love can be taken from you without warning, and that you have to be strong because the world won't wait for you to grieve. Her mother, Ans, had to become both parents overnight, working to provide for her children while dealing with her own grief. The family didn't have wealth or privilege to cushion the blow. They were ordinary people in a small Dutch town trying to survive an extraordinary tragedy. The values instilled in Yolanda during this difficult time, the resilience her mother modeled, the determination to push forward despite pain, all these would become the foundation of who she'd become. Yolanda never planned to become a model. She was just a girl from a small town with no connections to the fashion industry, but fate or chance or whatever you want to call it intervened. Dutch fashion designer Fran Molenaar needed a model for one of his shows. Someone canceled or didn't show up, and Molenaar asked Yolanda to fill in. It seemed like just a favor, a one-time thing. But Eileen Ford, the legendary founder of Ford Models, was at that show. She saw something in this young Dutch woman that convinced her to offer a contract with Ford Models on the spot. Just like that, Yolanda's life changed completely. At an age when most young women are trying to figure out what to do with their lives, Yolanda was being whisked into the glamorous, cutthroat world of international modeling. And for the next 15 years, Yolanda modeled in Paris, Milan, Sydney, Cape Town, Tokyo, New York, Los Angeles, and Hamburg. She traveled the world, worked with the best photographers and designers, graced magazine covers and runway shows. It was the 1980s, and modeling meant something different than it does today. There was no social media, no instant fame, no influencer culture. You worked hard, you showed up, you didn't complain, and if you were good enough and lucky enough, you made a living. Yolanda was more than good enough. She became a top model during that era, building a career through sheer determination and work ethic. But modeling is a young woman's game, and Yolanda was self-aware enough to know it wouldn't last forever. By her early 30s, she was ready for something different. She wanted to settle down, start a family, build a life that wasn't about constant travel and living out of suitcases. In 1994, Yolanda met Mohammed Hadid, a real estate developer with charm, ambition, and Palestinian roots that gave him a worldview very different from her small-town Dutch upbringing. They fell in love quickly and married that same year. Yolanda moved to Los Angeles, trading the international modeling circuit for domestic life in California. Over the next 5 years, Yolanda gave birth to 3 children who would eventually become more famous than she ever was. Gigi was born on April 23, 1995. Bella arrived on October 9, 1996, and Anwar completed the family on June 22, 1999. Yolanda threw herself into motherhood with the same intensity she'd brought to modeling. She was hands-on, involved. Mana determined to give her children the stable, loving home she'd lost too early in her own childhood. But the marriage to Mohammed didn't last. They divorced in 2000 when the children were still very young. Suddenly, Yolanda was a single mother of 3 in Los Angeles, far from her family in the Netherlands, starting over yet again. She'd gone from losing her father at 7 to losing her marriage at 36. The pattern of loss and resilience, tragedy and rebuilding was already defining her life. Being a single mother wasn't easy, especially with 3 young children, but Yolanda was resourceful and tough. She'd built a modeling career from nothing. She'd immigrated to a new country and started a family. She could handle single motherhood. She focused on her children, instilling in them the work ethic and discipline she'd learned in the modeling industry. Oh, she taught them that beauty wasn't enough, that you had to be professional, punctual, and willing to work harder than everyone else. In 2010, Yolanda met David Foster, and it must have seemed like a fairy tale. David was one of the most successful music producers in the world, with 16 Grammy Awards and a catalog of hits that defined multiple generations. He'd worked with Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, Michael Bublé, and countless other legends. He was wealthy, talented, charming, and he fell hard for Yolanda. They got engaged on Christmas Eve 2010 and married in Beverly Hills on November 11, 2011. The wedding was exactly what you'd expect from a music mogul and a former supermodel. Glamorous, star-studded, perfect. Yolanda became stepmother to David's 5 daughters from previous marriages. They had homes in Malibu and around the world. Oh, they socialized with celebrities and industry titans. From the outside, it looked like Yolanda had finally found her happily ever after. But there was something important about the marriage that would become relevant later. Despite David being one of the wealthiest men in the music industry, he and Yolanda kept their finances completely separate. David insisted on this arrangement after difficult divorces in his previous 3 marriages, where money became a major issue. Yolanda had her own money from modeling and her divorce from Muhammad, but she wasn't independently wealthy like David. This financial separation meant that when Yolanda joined Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in 2012, wasn't just for fun or exposure. It was a financial decision. She needed the income, snorts. Despite being married to a multimillionaire, Yolanda was responsible for her own expenses, and reality TV provided a steady paycheck. This detail, which Yolanda revealed in her memoir, changes the perception of why she joined the show. It wasn't vanity or boredom, it was practical necessity. In 2012, the same year Yolanda joined Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, she was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. She'd been experiencing symptoms for a while, troubling things she couldn't explain, extreme fatigue that wasn't solved by sleep, brain fog that made thinking clearly almost impossible, muscle weakness that left her feeling disconnected from her own body. She'd seen multiple doctors at top hospitals, but everyone was quick to treat symptoms without identifying the underlying cause. Finally, a Belgian doctor diagnosed her with chronic Lyme disease. According to the CDC, all Lyme disease is caused by bacteria transmitted through infected tick bites. In most cases, it's treatable with antibiotics, but in 5 to 10% of patients, the disease becomes chronic, causing prolonged and debilitating symptoms that can last months or years. Yolanda had late-stage chronic Lyme, which meant the bacteria had been in her system for a long time, possibly even since childhood, lying dormant before activating. The diagnosis explained her symptoms, but it also came with devastating news. 2 of her children, Bella and Anwar, were also diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease around the same time. Her mother, who still lived in the Netherlands, was also struggling with the disease. Yolanda wasn't just fighting for her own health. She was fighting for her children's futures and watching her mother suffer with the same invisible illness. What many people don't understand about chronic Lyme disease is how completely it can destroy your life. Yolanda went from being an outspoken, multitasking, hands-on mother of 3, reality TV star, and social butterfly to a woman who spent most of her time in bed. She lost the ability to read. She couldn't write. She couldn't even watch television because her brain couldn't process the information. Think about that for a second. A woman who'd built a career on her intellect and presence couldn't read a book or follow a TV show. In a 2021 interview with Vogue UK, Yolanda revealed just how dark things got. "I can't begin to describe the darkness, pain, and the hell I live through every day." She said for some time, it didn't even feel like living at all. "This disease brought me to my knees." She admitted that there were times she wished to die from the pain. Times when ending her life seemed like the only way to escape the constant agony. Yolanda's battle with Lyme disease played out on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but not in the way she would have chosen. The show became both a wake-up call for her health issues and a source of immense pain. When she first started filming in 2012, she didn't yet know she had Lyme disease, but viewers and Yolanda herself started noticing that something was wrong. She had trouble finding words to accurately express what she wanted to say. Her thoughts would get jumbled when simple conversations became frustrating because her brain wouldn't cooperate. The turning point came during a party filmed for season 3 when she got into a fight with Taylor Armstrong. Out of desperation, I blurred out, "You are such an asshole," Yolanda recalled in her memoir. "I stunned myself because my first language isn't English. I'm extremely conscious of the words I choose. It's the moment that shakes and wakes me up." That moment of losing control of her language on camera terrified Yolanda. She knew something was seriously wrong. It led her to pursue more aggressive testing and eventually to the diagnosis that explained everything. In that sense, Real Housewives saved her life by documenting the cognitive decline that made her realize she needed help. But the show also became a source of torture. As Yolanda's health deteriorated and she became more open about her Lyme disease journey, some of her castmates began questioning whether she was really sick. The accusations were subtle at first, whispered conversations and skeptical looks, but they escalated into outright suggestions that Yolanda was faking her illness or exaggerating for attention. Lisa Rinna was particularly cruel, suggesting at one point that Yolanda might have Munchausen syndrome, a psychological disorder where people pretend to be sick for attention. Imagine fighting for your life, unable to read or write, watching your children battle the same disease, and having people on national television suggest you're making it all up. The emotional toll of that betrayal on top of the physical suffering from Lyme disease was almost unbearable. Yolanda later told Entertainment Tonight that the show took a serious toll on her mental health. "The first season I went on, I was diagnosed with neurological Lyme disease, and a lot of narratives were created by the women. But those things were very hurtful, and I was fighting for my life. The women who should have been supporting her through a health crisis were instead creating storylines that questioned her honesty and integrity." As Yolanda's health declined, cracks began forming in her marriage to David Foster. At first, David seemed supportive. He accompanied her to some doctor appointments, stood by her publicly, tried to understand what she was going through. But Lyme disease is a brutal test of any relationship. When one partner is constantly sick, can't participate in the social life they used to enjoy, needs constant care and support, it changes the entire dynamic. By 2014, just 3 years into the marriage, serious strain was evident. Yolanda recalls David refusing to join her on a trip to Bali where she was seeking treatment. While there, she wrote in her journal, "How do I all of a sudden feel trapped by the most quality human being in my life? I feel empty and lost all drive to try to fix all the issues that have broken our bond." The word trapped is particularly revealing. Yolanda felt trapped not just in her sick body, but in her marriage. Despite her deteriorating health, despite feeling disconnected from David, she was committed to making it work through sickness and health she'd promised. She wanted to honor those vows even as her marriage crumbled around her. But David had reached his limit. Or in her memoir, Believe Me, Yolanda revealed the devastating moment when her marriage essentially ended. David told her, "Your sick card is up." Those 4 words destroyed her. After years of fighting an invisible disease, after losing the ability to read and write, and after watching her children suffer, her husband told her that her time being sick was over, as if illness had an expiration date. David has denied this characterization and claimed in the Netflix documentary, David Foster off the record, that he didn't leave because of her health. "How can I leave a sick woman?" He said, "The fact of the matter is that was not the reason I left. It was for a different reason, which I will never disclose. That had nothing to do with her being sick. Whatever the real reason, the result was the same." David and Yolanda announced their divorce in December 2015 after 4 years of marriage. They didn't speak to each other for an entire year after the announcement. The divorce was finalized on October 16, 2017. Yolanda's fairy tale second marriage was over, and she was facing life as a divorced, chronically ill woman trying to rebuild yet again. Yolanda's determination to heal led her on an astonishing journey across the globe, trying every possible treatment for Lyme disease. She pursued traditional medicine and alternative therapies with equal intensity. She had metal crowns removed from her teeth after learning they could be contributing to her toxicity. She had breast implants removed when she discovered they were leaking toxins into her body. She tried hyperbaric oxygen therapy, stem cell treatments, hyperothermia treatments, cleanses, and detoxification protocols. She traveled to different countries seeking specialists who understood chronic Lyme disease. She fought parasites, eventually expelling what are called ropeworms. The treatments were often as difficult as the disease itself, but Yolanda refused to give up. All of this cost money, lots of money. And since she and David kept finances separate, these expenses were on her. The cost of treating chronic Lyme disease is staggering. Between travel, specialists, alternative therapies, and ongoing care, patients can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars seeking relief. This financial pressure, combined with the overwhelming responsibilities of maintaining her Malibu estate while being chronically ill, led Yolanda to make a heartbreaking decision. She sold her beloved Malibu home, weren't the one with the lemon trees and rose gardens. She sold it completely furnished, parting with all her worldly possessions. Its magnitude and the overwhelming responsibilities that come with running it are more than I can handle, she explained in her memoir. We have help, but I'm still in charge of it all. The beautiful lemon orchard and rose gardens that I used to love tending to are now monsters of pressure. Not only do I feel trapped in my brain, I also feel trapped in this big, beautiful house. Letting go of that house was about more than just real estate. It represented letting go of the life she'd built, the image she'd maintained, the physical manifestation of her success and stability. But Yolanda had learned through decades of loss and rebuilding that material things don't matter when you're fighting for your life. She needed to simplify, to focus all her energy on healing. While fighting her own battle with Lyme disease, Yolanda had to watch two of her children fight the same invisible enemy. Bella and Anwar were both diagnosed with chronic Lyme around the same time as their mother. For a parent, there's no greater pain than watching your children suffer and being unable to fix it. Bella has been relatively open about her Lyme journey, sharing on social media how riding horses helps her cope with flare-ups. I feel better when I'm riding, she wrote on TikTok after dealing with a particularly bad episode. I think my horses just really take my mind off the pain. The fact that this young woman might at the peak of her modeling career has to manage a chronic illness that can leave her bedridden is heartbreaking for Yolanda. Watching her children follow in her modeling footsteps while battling the same disease that nearly destroyed her must be terrifying. She can't protect them from it. She can only support them through it and share what she's learned. The fact that 3 members of one family are battling chronic Lyme disease has led to questions about transmission and family susceptibility. While Lyme disease isn't hereditary in the traditional sense, there are theories about transmission from mother to child during pregnancy that remain controversial in the medical community. Regardless of how her children contracted the disease, Yolanda carries the weight of their suffering along with her own. In 2017, Yolanda published her memoir, Believe Me, My Battle with the Invisible Disability of Lyme Disease. The book is her attempt to explain what chronic Lyme disease is, what she's been through, and why awareness matters. It's not a tell-all all about her modeling days or her marriages. It's a health journey book focused entirely on her battle with Lyme and her determination to find healing. The title, Believe Me, is significant. Throughout her journey, Yolanda faced skepticism from doctors who couldn't explain her symptoms, from castmates who suggested she was faking, from the public who didn't understand invisible illnesses. The book is her plea to be believed, to have her experience validated, to bring attention to a disease that affects hundreds of thousands of people, but remains poorly understood. Yolanda became an advocate for Lyme disease research and awareness. She spoke at the Time for Lyme Gala using her platform to bring attention to what she calls the greatest global epidemic of our time. She shared her journey on social media, detailed and raw, showing the treatments and the struggles and the small victories. For people suffering from chronic Lyme disease, Yolanda became a voice when they had none. And she represented them in the public eye, used her fame to bring attention to their suffering, and refused to be shamed into silence. Her advocacy work has been praised by Lyme disease organizations and patients who finally felt seen. Recovery from chronic Lyme disease isn't linear. There are good days and bad days, progress and setbacks. In August 2022, Yolanda revealed she'd had a relapse, reminding everyone that this disease doesn't just go away. But overall, her health has improved significantly from the darkest days when she couldn't read or write. She moved to a Pennsylvania farm, trading the glamorous Malibu lifestyle for something quieter and more manageable. She focused on wellness, on her relationship with her children, on rebuilding a life that wasn't defined by illness. She became what she calls a women's wellness advocate, using her experience to help others navigate similar journeys. In May 2020, she watches her children's careers flourish. She continues her advocacy work. She's building a life that honors everything she survived. Looking back at Yolanda Hadid's life, the word that comes to mind is resilience. At 7, she lost her father and learned to live with grief. As a teenager, she built a modeling career from nothing. At 36, she became a single mother and rebuilt her life. At 48, she was diagnosed with a disease that stole years of her life and destroyed her marriage. And through all of it, she kept fighting. The sad story of Yolanda Hadid is also the inspiring story of a woman who refused to quit. She could have given up when the Lyme disease pain became unbearable. She could have retreated from public life when her castmates accused her of lying. She could have abandoned her advocacy work when people mocked her treatments. But she didn't. She kept showing up, kept fighting, kept using her voice to help others. Her relationship with Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is complicated. The show documented her decline, amplified her suffering, and gave a platform to people who questioned her illness. But it also gave her a voice to share her story with millions of people who might never have known about chronic Lyme disease otherwise. Would she do it again knowing what she knows now? Probably not. She's moved to New York, far from Beverly Hills, and has made it clear she'll never return to the franchise. But her time on the show, painful as it was, became part of her larger story. A story about a farm girl from the Netherlands who conquered the fashion world, raised 3 supermodel children, survived a disease that brings people to their knees, and came out the other side still standing, still fighting, still believing that tomorrow can be better than today. Yolanda Hadid's story isn't just sad. It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure unimaginable pain and keep fighting. From childhood tragedy to chronic illness to public humiliation, she survived it all. And she's using her voice to help others fighting invisible battles.